What's up, guys? We are back. Fitness Profit Multiplier, Anthony and Jimmy. And today we're going to be telling you guys the truth about personal training client retention. The truth on it. Because there's so much misinformation out there. It's actually funny. I went on I'm trying to think of how to say this without saying their name. A35's like business plans model. So just you guys can figure out what I'm talking about from there. So I went on their business model and it pulled up some of their documents, and they're claiming they have a 1% churn rate, which is literally impossible. Literally impossible to have a 1% churn rate. But yeah, we're going to talk about retention because we have done, at least I have pulled every lever I could on retention. So I know what works, what doesn't work, what's a waste of time. And the gurus will spat. You got to do this. You got to do that. You got to do this. What's right? What's wrong? And yeah, we're going to go in and out of it with retention today. But Jimmy, what's up, man? Let's start this off with a question. Which referral technique have you heard from a guru that you absolutely hate and can't stand and doesn't do anything?
It's the text check-ins. It's the text check-ins.
Yeah.
That's the one, right? Text your members all the time. Make them feel like they're part of a community by text. Maybe 20% of your members appreciate it, but those are the members that are already staying with you anyway. Those are your your diehards, and they always respond and they always are appreciative of it and all this stuff. But the text your members all the time is one that is super interesting because it takes a decent amount of bandwidth from your team. Because you don't want it to be this automated thing. You could automate it, but people see through that pretty quickly, unless you're really, really, really savvy with it. But most gym owners are not. So the text your members all the time one is probably the most frustrating one. And one point, A35, if they had a 1% churn rate, they wouldn't be closing locations. So that's just that's just
but
yeah.
Yeah, I hate text check-ins. I hate it. It is very time consuming, extremely time consuming. And one of the ways that they say to break it down is like you take your full member list and then you break it down for every trainer you have, and you give like each trainer a bucket of clients to take care of, and then you have them text them. And like it sounds like a really, really good strategy on paper, but clients don't respond to it. People are busy. They don't want to be bombarded with text messages from you, So yeah, text check-ins is the worst one.
Text check-ins, yeah. So that's the worst one for sure. But Anthony and I have tried everything in the book to improve churn, right? And there are some things that kind of work. Like we have found that the birthday cards are good. The handwritten birthday cards that you send out still do make an impact in terms of your members and that kind of thing. The gifting does make a decent impact, right? When they reach a certain milestone, we have a structure where we give them a thermos, and then we give them a bottle of wine, and then we give them a t-shirt like that they can't buy, and then we give them custom shoes, right? If they've been a member for a certain amount of time, right? They've hit a certain amount of sessions, then we give them this gifting, like kind of giftology type of thing, right? Which is cool because it keeps them rooted to your community, and those things are cool. I don't know how much of an effect it has on retention early on in the engagement, but it has a good sense of retention when people have been with you for a little while. So out of all the things that people tell you to do, those are the two things that we've seen to make an impact, right? That are just actions and plays that you can run. Birthday cards and handwritten birthday cards and the gifting, right? Other than that, it comes down to really one thing and one thing only, right? And we can drum roll it if you'd like, Anthony. But that one thing is your client experience and how good your coaches actually are, right? That is by far the biggest impact. How your business is structured, people feeling like they're being taken care of, people having that perception of customization, and feeling like the value, the money that they're exchanging is actually worth it, right? And I know that's a big topic, but you may have to look into your business and from an outside view, because everybody thinks that the way they do it, every trainer thinks that the way they do it, gym owner, trainer that's become a gym owner, right? Thinks that their structure, their coaches, their team, their community is the best. You talk to any gym owner, and that's what they say. Oh, our community is what sets us apart. Our community is what says our coaches are the best. Our system is the best. Maybe it's not. It may be the best according to the text. It may be the best according to training theory. But is it the best client experience for your end user? And it may be hard to hear this, but if your retention is low and your attrition rate is high, 8, 9, 10%, your client experience probably sucks. A little tough love.
Yeah, I mean, and most people, like you said, they don't look within. And we kind of talked about this so many times too. You know, you have to look at it like a restaurant. You know, the ambiance of the room is nice. You know, the place is clean. You know, the waiters are friendly, but the steak sucks. It's like, yeah, you'll still go there. It's like, oh, it's a cool atmosphere, but the food's not that good. That's what people say, right? So you have to make sure you're serving the best steak. And the thing is, it's not easy to do, right? It's not easy to do because there's so many people that like different things. You know, I go to restaurants, maybe I don't feel like getting the steak, so I want lobster and I get the lobster. So if you're signing people up who want to do cardio and your facility doesn't have cardio, then of course your attrition is going to be high. You know, people are going to be leaving because it's not the steak for them. So you got to kind of remember that when you're coming up with all these things and trying to figure this out. Sending somebody a handwritten postcard when they don't want steak, they want a shrimp, is not going to help them stay. They're going to say, yeah, that place is nice, everyone's good over there, but it's just not, you know, like I said, using the food analogy, yeah, that place is beautiful, but the food sucks. That kind of a thing. And you have to look within for that one, and that's not easy at all to do. That's definitely not easy at all to do. But one of the things that I also want to talk about here, and my dog's going nuts. One of the things we could talk about here too is an onboarding sequence, because I think an onboarding sequence does help to root people into the community and does help with, you know, keeping people longer, because if they're more bought in the beginning, they're onboarded better, they're going to be more comfortable. And you always have to be looking at the onboarding process. And if clients say they're overwhelmed or, you know, things like that, there's something that needs to be changed. So what has worked best for us is we do, you know, the assessment with them initially. So we go, if you want to go from the beginning, they opt in, we go to phone call, we schedule an appointment, we go to phone call. From the phone call, we bring them into an assessment. From the assessment, they sign up. Now they get all their starting documents. 1 week later, we put them into our, what we call like a blueprint meeting, where it basically goes over the system, you know, through and through. Usually it's a couple days to a week later. And at that point, they already have done 1 or 2 sessions. So that gets them on board pretty quickly. And then we follow up that blueprint meeting with an accountability call. So we basically just call them and just say, hey, how's it going? Blah, blah, blah. And then at that point, they're 3 weeks in and they should be kind of onboarded. I've experimented with doing accountability calls every month and things like that. And it's just not as effective. People kind of talk about what's on their mind as opposed to, you know, what the root of the problem is. So maybe structuring that a little bit better can help. But I think it's just a bad use of your bandwidth and your time. So I think that is probably the best onboarding sequence that you could do. And that's what we're currently doing.
Yeah. I'd leave those meetings, if clients want to have meetings with coaches, right? And they want to have that, I would make that known, but I wouldn't necessarily structure it in such a way that is like a mainstay in your business. I would make it known that, like, if you want to schedule a 15-minute call or in-person meeting with a coach to go over your training and your program and what's up next for you, I would leave that available and let people know that that's something they can do, right? Whether they do that with your manager, one of your staff members, whatever, but scheduling it formally, you only get a certain amount of clients that do it. People want to do it at different times. So, but having that available, that office hours type of thing where they can schedule some time with you to either go over a little bit of technique or talk about what's going on with their training or whatever, 15 minutes could be the difference between keeping a client for a couple more months. But it's not something that needs to be structured after that first onboarding phase, right? But that first onboarding phase is important because what we see is that you're going to lose a client within the first 90 days, the first 90 to 100 days, or you're going to lose them a year later, typically, right? We typically don't lose a lot of clients at the 6-month mark, 8-month mark, things like that. We lose them in the first couple of months, or they stay for that lifetime value that you're looking for, right? So at least that's what our business numbers tell us. So the initial phases of getting somebody kind of onboarded are important to get them into your culture, into your community, and give them what they need to be successful in the beginning, right? So that's another play that you can run, that you can implement into your business, which does make a difference.
Yep. And that's a good point. The only problem is that people don't read. That's one of the things I'm starting to notice, is that people don't read. So where would you kind of put that to remind them that they could do that?
It would be one of these things that you do, like you go live in your Facebook group, or you put it in one of your client emails periodically. So for us, it's, you know, you can kind of run it as some of these other promotions that you run in your facility. You could put like posters around your gym for it. We don't do that. We just do it in our live, in our Facebook group. And that gets the people that actually want to do it. Some people aren't in your Facebook group, so you're going to want to email it as well, just because not everybody comes into your Facebook group, but you should be getting most of your clients in your Facebook group. And we just do that with a QR code after their initial meeting, their onboarding.
So Jimmy, the steak sucks at my facility.
Yeah.
What's the first thing that you do to fix the steak?
I think that the first thing to fix the steak, and the steak really comes down to your system, but I wouldn't overhaul your system immediately, right? Because let's use the restaurant.
Actually, wait, let's pause on that for 2 seconds, because that's a good point. I want to say it really quick before somebody goes and radically changes their business. When you're trying to keep people at your facility longer, it takes time. So you can make a bunch of changes today, but you're not going to see that change tomorrow. You're going to see it in 3 months, 6 months. It's like a slow drip. That's what makes this so difficult to actually do, because it's not something that you fix today and it's fixed tomorrow.
Right.
You know, it's something that takes a little bit of time. So Jimmy's first piece of advice when I asked him that question was, I wouldn't go and change everything tomorrow, is 100% correct, because you could change everything in your business and it still might not work.
Right. So it's just like with your training, right? You're not going to manipulate all of these variables to get as strong as you can possibly get, right? You manipulate one variable at a time. Because if you manipulate everything, right? You go from training 2 days a week to 5 days a week, and you squat 4 days, and you're doing all this ridiculous volume, you're just going to spin your wheels and burn yourself out, right? Especially if you're trying to change all these things with your staff. You're like, we're going to do this and this and this and this and this. It's like, think about it on a quarterly basis, but the retention, because sometimes it's difficult to know what actually made the change, right? So the first thing that I would do, if my retention is high, my retention is low, my attrition is high, right? The first thing that I would do, and the one thing that made a huge change in our business is, and especially once you're out of the training role, like when you're training everybody and you have a small group of clients, your retention is going to be very high, right? Because everybody has an intimate personal relationship with you as the owner and the coach and the person that's really passionate, and your coaches are not going to be as passionate as you are about the process. You are going to be the most passionate person. You are going to have a vested interest in doing your best, but sometimes your coaches are not in the same mindset as you, right? You try and get them as close as possible, but they may not be. So if you're one of those people that's a solopreneur and you're running all the sessions and you got less than 100 members and you're like, well, my retention is great, I lose 2% a month. That's because of the specific situation that you're in, because you're a solopreneur. So don't take that as something that's like, oh, it's great, I don't have to work on it, right? Once you have a scaled business, the thing that made the biggest difference for us was running a separate trainer meeting in addition to our level 10 meeting. So that separate trainer meeting allows us to go through what movement patterns are not being coached very well, how we want to coach those movement patterns better, how we can focus on the way that our staff are actually coaching our members, what the system looks like, what the quality of the program looks like. So our manager is going to evaluate the quality of our other coaches, bring those things up in that meeting, and go over specific movement patterns to get more nitpicky about the technique so that people feel as if they're getting a better service, and they are getting a better service in that way, right? That's the biggest thing that changed for us, because when you're in small group personal training, if you're just kind of quiet and just letting people do their thing and not coaching people hard, they don't see the value there. They want to get that nitpicky coaching eye on them all the time. Your coaches need to be changing levels, need to be coaching people up, making sure their technique is proper, advancing them when they need to advance, regressing them when they need to regress, and making sure they get really dialed in on the coaching of the movement pattern. Because for the most part, people come to a small group personal training facility, they want intimate attention, right? That's why they're coming there. You're not a boot camp. You're not a big facility where people are just coming in, sweating, getting cardio in. They come there for the meticulous nature of your coaches and how professional and how much attention to detail they have in those sessions. So it comes down first to how your staff is running the play and running your system. Are your members getting introduced to other members when they first come into the facility? Are they getting greeted within a couple seconds of coming in? Is your coach caring about that person and asking them about their personal life? Are they using their name regularly? Are they coaching them and hitting the coaching points they need to hit? How many coaching points do they need to give each client at the end of each workout? And how are they doing on that every week? And have them self-evaluate. And then when your manager is sitting down with that meeting, you can make the product better over time through a interpersonal connection side, not an overhaul of your system. That's the thing that's made the biggest difference in our business. We've been doing those meetings for about 5 months now, and we are just now seeing the reward from it, right? Our attrition rate was a little bit high earlier this year. We hit some months that we were at around 7%, and now we're trending around that 3 to 5%. Okay, so that's the difference that it can make. And with a business our size, it's a huge difference. That's like 3 or 4 clients a month that we're no longer losing. Huge, right? And if you're smaller, losing 1 less client per month makes a huge difference at the end of the year. That's 12 more clients that you have at the end of the year. And if those clients are worth $400 a month, and let's just say it's 10 for easy math, that's $4,000 a month in recurring revenue that you kept, that you didn't have to buy, right? Huge lever to pull, but I think it comes down to your coaches. So when you look at the restaurant analogy, are your waiters screwing it up, right? Are your waiters screwing it up?
Yeah. Are your waiters waiting too long to take the steak out? You know, are
Right.
they letting it dry out under the heat lamp? You know, that kind of a thing. So what do you go through on these meetings, Jimmy, then when you do these meetings?
So
Because
biggest
we do
thing
something
is,
very similar too.
yeah, it's pretty simple, guys. I have my manager run it actually. So I still run our level 10 meeting, which is more of our business-based meeting. But our trainer meeting is run from a perspective of, we go around the circle and we go, what movements are you guys having trouble with coaching right now? What things are clients concerned about? Any client issues that are coming up? And then all of our coaches will talk about that, okay? How are you doing on your, we call it the rule of 5s, right? How are you doing on your rule of 5s? Which is each person needs 5 detailed coaching cues every workout, right? And then we do 3 times using their name, 3 times, but we say rule of 5, so we want that increase in coaching points. And I tell them 5 is the minimum. If you get more than that, great. Some people will say 20 coaching points. Depends on what you classify as a coaching point, right? But you can make that rule up in your own facility, right? So how are you doing on each one of these? Self-evaluation. Each staff member does a self-evaluation. The manager talks about what they see as something that needs to change or something that could be better in the sessions. And then we pick movement patterns to go over in detail how we're going to coach those better. And we go over a different movement pattern or 2 every week, sometimes 3. And it's pretty simple. It keeps your staff sharp, right? It keeps them sharp. It keeps them confident with what they're doing with their members when they come in. And then you talk about the issues. If your manager notices an issue, because they're doing quality assurance on your other coaches, if they notice an issue, we're bringing that up. And we're saying, hey, Jenny, you need to make sure you're greeting people when they come in. Like, that's not being met, right? We keep our people accountable to the system that we know works for retention and for the best service possible, right? So it's just kind of a gut check a little bit, but a lot of it is getting your team together, working on and bringing your hive mind, all of your brains together and going, well, how would Jenny coach this? And how would Bobby coach this? And you do some role play coaching, and then each coach kind of gets a different perspective of what another coach might do, because some clients like another coach's style a little bit better, and they can become a better chameleon of the actual distribution of your system in your sessions.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. And I like how you also keep those metrics in, because we have the same type of metrics, but it's not something that I drill with them all the time to making sure that they're, they all know to do it, but I never actually go over with them weekly. Like, are you actually meeting that? Like, right. We have, our thing of greeting them within a couple of seconds of walking in. That's one of our core values that we push on everyone to do in our rules. So they do it for the most part when I'm like, I hear it, like I know what's happening, but I never actually ask them like, hey, are you being accountable to it? Are you really doing it? Rate yourself and let me know. And that's a really good system of feedback to just kind of remind them of the rules, because, we were just talking about clients, how they don't see things or don't see, hear things. It's constant reminders. And especially for your staff, it's just a constant reminder for them of like, okay, these are the rules. These are the rules of the session. This is what I have to do. So that's really, really good, man. And, I think that's good. I think we beat this up pretty good. So implement all those things into your business, guys. And if you guys want any help with this, just click that link below and you can hop on the phone with us and we will walk you through step by step what you need to do to put 20K plus in your pocket in profit. And who doesn't want that, right, Jimmy?
I mean, I'd appreciate 20,000 more in my pocket every month.
Exactly. All right, guys, we will catch you on the next one.